Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode number 153. This is going to be a historical, literary retrospective on Jeet Kune Do with my good friend and Jeet Kune Do historian par excellence, Richard Torres. As you guys are logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button and feel free to continue doing so throughout the dialogue. If you're catching the final edit video over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support the program, please visit the jkdrebel.com, click on the Rebel Gear link where you will find stuff like this. The 4 tenets of Jeet Kune Do t-shirt designed by yours truly, right? So this is what it looks like front and back, but it's also available as a front and back coffee mug and also as a hoodie, I believe. So feel free to check out what we offer over at jkdrebel.com. Click on the Rebel Gear link. So for now, the best thing you can do, though, is to share the video and tell everybody and spread the word about the Jeet Kune Do dialogues. Okay, so this is Richard's 4th appearance. So you guys, as they say, buckle in, sit back, and enjoy the show. All right, well, for those who, okay, Kos is here, so, all right. Okay, we're live, right? Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, Jeet Kune Do Rebel. I'm not going to do a big, long introduction. Everybody knows my good friend, Richard Torres. This is his probably the 4th time on the dialogues. And if you saw the postcard, then you know that we have subtitled this episode as a literary historical retrospective. Right? Some of you might remember the first time Richard and I did the dialogues, I was teasing him about the extensiveness and expansiveness of his collection. And I have lived in envy ever since. All right. So, hey, man, welcome back to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so let me start. What do they say? Pulling your chain from the get-go and put these two. Okay. Does everybody? Okay, so does everybody see this stuff? Right? How do you like that?
There it is. I can see
that.
It.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get both of them. Let me see if no, I can't get both of them at the same time. No, okay, it won't work, right? But just so everybody knows,
the other one.
Richard knows how to strike a pose. Right. Okay. So yeah. So we'll get started, and hopefully I won't mess up Richard's planned order for doing things. But let me just tell you guys, because you won't know about the behind the scenes. But Richard sent me a tremendous selection of stuff. So I'm probably going to be relatively quiet on this dialogue,
yeah, right.
and let him talk a lot about what we're looking at. So hopefully I can get these in the proper order. Okay, so let's do this, right? Now, I don't know. Alex Richter is on here. Alex Richter might know what that says. Do you know what it says, Richard?
All I know is that it's a Kung Fu book about striking.
Okay.
A lot of striking.
Okay.
I think I put some pictures there with that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there it is. There's a guy hitting with his shoulder, he's hitting the bag.
Right.
With his head, he's hitting the bag. You see that?
Yeah.
And then here he is with his.
That's the sandbag stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, yeah, the sandbag over here, right? And just punching and finger thrusting.
Okay. Oh, wait, you know what? All right, I'm going to try an experiment and see if we can get people a better shot of this. Okay, so guys, bear with us because we're doing a lot of experimenting today, all right? Okay, hang on, let's see.
Yeah, look at that.
Right?
Back of palm. Back of palm. Very good. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should just keep it like that, and they don't have to look at our two ugly mugs.
Yeah, it's okay with me. People want to, who are those two guys behind
Right? Yeah.
the voices?
Okay.
And you can see the finger thrust. I love that one
Mm-hmm.
on the bag. And then the one on the right here, you know, is throw the bag to the right and catch with the right. You know, so it's a bag that
Oh, so it
you
alternate
throw
and
it.
catching the sandbag.
Yeah, so you try to catch it, you throw it and you catch it.
Yeah.
And you
Nice
try to
one.
build up your wrist. That's the
Okay.
old ways when they used to do all that type of training.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, I hope
Nice.
Alex Richter will be able to tell us what it says if it's in Cantonese, right? Okay. All right. So that was the first one. Let me make sure I don't.
It's important for people to understand that when Bruce Lee was in Hong Kong, he wasn't much of an avid reader, book reader.
Mm-hmm.
So he he's just a normal young kid in Hong
So
Kong.
so these books. Okay. So then these books came in Seattle and not in Hong Kong.
No, when he lived in Seattle, and was approached to teach in the 1960s by Jesse Glover, Ed Hart, Leroy Garcia, and all those other guys, DeMille, Bruce Lee wanted to expand his knowledge of Kung Fu.
Okay.
So he used to drive from Seattle to Vancouver, Canada, which had a Chinatown there. And in Vancouver, Canada, he would purchase these books, these Kung Fu books, and devour them. And as you see, write notes and so forth.
Right.
And then pick some stuff up and teach it in his classes, you know. So he, he wasn't just teaching Wing Chun. He was saying he was teaching Kung Fu, you know.
Right.
Which is, Wing Chun plus.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, what's this one?
This is a praying mantis book. And you can see the praying mantis up there in
green.
Mm-hmm. This was a set of 2 books, I believe. Yeah. And this might be let me see, the first one or the second one.
All right.
Yeah. So you see again some pictures and Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Riding the mantis stands up there.
These pictures are, to me, they're reminiscent of the pictures that he ended up taking. Or like sometimes, when you see pictures of him and Taki Kimura, those pictures.
They do those nice poses, yeah.
Yeah, and to me they're very reminiscent of what we're looking at here.
This is nice, right? Because he writes Mantis style Kung Fu, and he actually puts his address there.
Right. Yeah, he's got his personal stamp on it, right?
That's Ruby Chow's restaurant.
Okay.
But yeah, he's got that.
Let me just make sure we didn't. Okay, so all right, so then that's that one. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
And there's another one that looks just like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me one sec. See, now people are starting to go, oh, there's a lot of work that went into this program. Yes, there was.
What time was it when I was sending you this stuff? 1 or 2? What
time
was it?
It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and yeah. Oh
yeah. So Bruce Lee wanted to expand his knowledge of the other Kung Fu arts, and he started purchasing books on the subject, which was the beginning of his love for books and going to them for self-knowledge.
Right. Okay. Let me see if is this better. Let me just make sure. No, that's the one we looked at already. Okay, so I think it's this. Might be this one. Let me just see. Yeah, I think it's this one. This is the other one that you said looks
the other
looks right.
Probably a set of 2 books.
Yeah.
And then you see all the other pictures.
Right.
Misprint 3/4, 3-foot sweep is enough. It's funny because he's looking at all this and he's writing his own little notes here.
Right.
Which shows you how much of a free thinker he was, and adding his own marginal notes.
Yeah.
You know what he says, add what is specifically your own.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about with the books. Yeah.
So so we're looking at Bruce Lee's old praying mantis books here, and it reminds me that Taki Kimura in Game of Death, it said that he was scheduled to be the praying mantis opponent, right?
Yeah, that would have been interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
It almost happened, but Enter the Dragon came in and they had to reschedule it for after Enter the Dragon. Unfortunately, Bruce passed away.
Hey, so I'm gonna test you to see if you're as much of a kung fu freak as I am. What's the best praying mantis fight scene you've ever seen in a movie?
Jackie Chan did a pretty good job with one of those movies.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Which one do you? Which one?
It's from the Marco Polo series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a character in there, man. He wrecks people with praying mantis. Yeah, he does. He does.
You know, when it's choreographed, no, seriously, it looks beautiful. You know.
Yeah.
You know, when you can choreograph it beautifully, it makes the art look very beautiful and artistic.
Yeah. Okay. What's this one?
This one is a good one because I have no idea the name of the book, but I know it was in Bruce Lee's library, and we have some pictures. I think one page of it somewhere. Here we are.
Yeah.
So another book that Bruce Lee picked up in Vancouver. You know, again, you know, just to expand his knowledge of Kung Fu. So he's just buying whatever he can find. You know, Kung Fu books, especially in America, you couldn't find them. They were basically all from Hong Kong, China, you know. So he went to Chinatown to find.
Okay, so back then, if this is the early 1960s, he's almost content to just build on the knowledge of Chinese Gung Fu and pass that on. Yes,
because you know, he always had these goals. His first goal was to be the best Wing Chun man. Then he wanted to be the best Kung Fu man. Eventually, wanted to be the best martial artist.
Right.
You know, so those small little goals became bigger and bigger. You know.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that, you know, he's the Chinatown kid from Hong Kong. You know, so he's you know, the new kid in town who has all this knowledge from back there.
Right.
Back from Hong Kong. So everybody's approaching him to learn this stuff.
Okay. All right. So as I've told people many times before, I don't have a professional setup like Joe Rogan does. So I don't have a producer or somebody working the graphics or what have you. So you guys are gonna have to hang tight every once in a while, and Richard and I will just talk nonsense while I try to while I try to queue up the next set of books and what have you. And like I told you, Matt, Richard, I really appreciate your agreeing to do this and and the stuff that you sent me. So this is probably one of the most famous ones that everybody's aware of now, right?
Yes, Boxing by Edwin L. Haslett.
Yeah.
Yeah, Haslett wrote this book in the 1940s. You know, and it's still a fantastic book. It still has information that anyone taking up boxing can use. Yeah. But obviously Bruce took a lot of stuff from this book and catered it towards Jeet Kune Do. Tweaked it a bit, you know.
Now I'm gonna ask you a dumb question. This one that we're looking at now, is this in a late edition of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do? Or did you do this?
No, this is the Tao.
Okay, because I know that I have that edition, but you want to hear something? Don't tell anybody I told you this. I never really looked at it. I just bought it because you have to have it, you know?
Yes,
right? But I never really looked at it.
They all, you know, they all contain the same information. It's just how it's put. you know, how it's presented.
So they're showing the origin of
Yeah.
the notes in the Tao, where the book.
You see, the point of the chin is not tugged into the left shoulder except when angling the head, and then you look down at Hasley, you see the chin is not tucked behind the left shoulder except in an extreme defensive position. So obviously Bruce Lee is learning this stuff and adding it to his notes of information.
Okay, now I need you to come to Bruce Lee's defense, because somebody's going to see this and they'll go, Bruce Lee never had an original thought in his life.
Actually, one of the things that Sifu Ted Wong used to say is that Bruce Lee liked boxing because it was scientific.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, Edwin L. Haslett, he in his book, he's talking about the science of punching, the science, you know, it's boxing, but it's the science of punching, the science of the stance, and so forth.
Right.
Which basically, you know, will go with anyone, you know, trying to stay scientifically correct as far as the human body, and not being fanciful, you know, doing fancy moves or everything, but just how do we stay here and express fighting. So there's a lot of truth in all those notes, you know.
Yeah, and then the thing is that in being scientific about it, he's going to research, he's going to make notes, he's going to take notes and what have you,
and tweak it towards his art.
Right. Yeah. So then
into a street fight.
Yeah. So then this idea that he's a plagiarist makes no sense, because we're just lucky that we got to see his personal notes, because unfortunately he passed away, and then Linda Lee had an idea of, you know, publishing or whatever. But it's not like, you know what I mean? How many times have you had to defend Bruce Lee against people who are like, oh, well, his book is just copies of whatever?
Yeah, well, that's because people don't understand the research that it took to learn what he learned, you know?
Right.
You know, what happened with Bruce is that he took these books and did a lot of underlinings and marginal notes. And then when he hurt his back, he decided to go back to those books years later.
Yeah.
And write down what he underlined and his marginal notes into a note form. And then eventually, you know, when he passed away, Linda saw those notes and had them printed. Right.
Yeah. I think people are okay. So here's an example. Now, I had to verify this with you. These are your copies of his notes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the underlinings that you see in green there is basically, they're all in the Tao, all those things, describing how to execute the shovel hook.
Okay.
So in Jack Dempsey's book, this is Jack Dempsey's book, Championship Fighting. Bruce Lee is showing the hook, the shovel.
Right.
And obviously he's describing
this is
the shovel. This one here is I like this because Jack Dempsey talks about the ranges, the long range, medium range, and he called it the short range, and Bruce Lee calls it the close range.
Right.
So these are the three ranges in JKD, actually, the long, medium, and close. You know, not kicking.
Right. Not the four. Yeah. Not the four ranges that came about later on. And then that one's the corkscrew hook, right?
Corkscrew punch.
Okay.
And again, you know, he's absorbing all this information that's out there, and he's learning it, and he's not only learning it but actually applying it.
Right.
You know, and if it works, he's including it into his arsenal of Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. Hey, somebody said to me the other day, oh, you know, there's that video of Bruce Lee hitting the punching bag, and his boxing form is terrible. Do you know what they're talking about?
Yeah, the heavy bag.
Yeah,
when he's hitting the heavy bag like this.
Yeah, right. And they're like, "Oh, his boxing form is terrible," and I'm like,
"That's because he's not doing boxing."
Wait, you're telling me there's only one way to use the heavy bag? You can't.
I think he was showing in that video, you know, how much he penetrated his punches through the heavy bag.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Um,
he could have easily just been like everybody else, and and look pretty about
yeah. People are, what amazes me, almost, I would say almost every week here on Facebook is just how little so many people actually know
Yeah, and it
about
gets tired. It gets
Bruce Lee.
tiring. It gets
Yeah.
tiring. It gets
Yeah.
tiring correcting them.
Yeah. It does. It does.
No,
Sorry about that, folks.
no problem. Somebody wants private lessons from you.
No. No. Shoot, this is terrible. I don't know how to shut it off either. Like you saw today earlier during the tech test, I'm not real good with the phones and what have you. Okay, so this is from
the naval book.
Navy, let me get the other one there. Yeah, okay.
Navy manual boxing book.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is from the Navy, boxing book from the Navy manual, but a lot of the information in this book came from Hatzler's book too.
Oh, really?
Besides the military stuff that's in it, pension and so forth.
But this one has a different author, or they just pulled from Hazlitt's book to make this for the Naval Academy?
Yes, they did, from Hatzler.
Okay.
Again, that's an attestament to Hatzler's book.
Right.
What you're seeing here is the headgear from the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing it there, and on top is you see Dan wearing the same headgear, which I guess Bruce Lee liked that headgear, and they found it and they use it for sparring.
Yeah.
At the school, in the Chinatown school. The point I was going to make was that Hatzler's book was written in 1940, and if you look at boxing today, you still can get a lot from Hatzler's book, which shows you how, people always say, oh, the art is evolving, but when you're doing a science with the human body, how much evolving, is it gonna go? The basics is still important.
Yeah.
And Hatzler's book was written in 1940, but he never mentioned the shovel or the corkscrew.
He took that from Dempsey.
What Jack Dempsey did, which was written in 1950, 10 years later. And, Jack Dempsey was trained by coaches that were trained by bare knuckle fighters.
Okay.
So they understood why they fought like this.
Right.
When you didn't have gloves,
Right.
that you punch, like this, and you punch like this, because your knuckles always had to be pointing at the opponent, compared to when you have gloves now, and you can just throw a hook like this and get away with it now.
Right.
So he understood that whole idea of power line of force, and so he had those two lost punches, the shovel and the corkscrew, which Bruce Lee took and added it to the arsenal of Jeet Kune Do.
Okay. All right. Now let's move on here. This one's gonna take a little bit.
Now it's important to understand that that Bruce Lee started looking into boxing after the Wok Jang Man fight. Okay. So this is another book, Push Yourself, by Frank Gilmer. Few people know about this book. I put it there because I wanted to bring it out there so people know that Bruce Lee used this book. But very few people knew that he used this book. And there's a lot of things that Bruce Lee used from this book. Over here, you can see Gilmer talking about hitting.
Right.
And again, the science right there. And the underlining that basically correspond with the Tao Jeet Kune Do, and where you could see these things.
Yeah.
Great stuff, and that could be used. I like, if you look on the right where it says there are no wrists in boxing, the forearm and the fist should be used as one solid piece, like a club.
Wow.
You see?
Yeah.
In other words, don't bend your wrist when you're punching.
Right.
When you're landing the punch anyway. So it says the fist should be kept in a straight line with the forearm, and there should be no bending of the waist, of the wrist in any direction.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because when people have boxing gloves on, they tend to make mistakes.
Right, because the glove will offer protection.
And the wraps.
Right.
You try that bare knuckle, and it's a whole different world.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Okay.
but anyway, going back to Bruce Lee and boxing, yeah, after the Wok Jack Man fight, he, I think he spoke with Leo Fong, and Leo kind of told Bruce, you should look into boxing because Leo had boxing experience, which Bruce Lee did. Because I think when Wok Jack Man was running away from Bruce was trying to straight blast him in the back of his head.
In the back of the head.
And Leo told him, Bruce, if you would have had a good hook, you would have knocked the guy out running away from you,
Right.
So I think Bruce took that to heart and started looking into boxing. So what does he do? The same thing he did with the Gung Fu books. With Gung Fu, he purchased books on Gung Fu. So now he's starting to purchase books on boxing.
Okay.
And also films. He also purchased films of Super 8s and so forth to watch.
Yeah, but you're jumping out of order. Okay. Oh, you mean films on boxing?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Here we got fencing books.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's in this one? Basic offense and attacks.
Yep. So this one is all about attacks, and you can see here we have simple attacks. Talking about the simple attacks. And this is one of the things that Bruce Lee used in the 5 ways of attack, where he called it simple attack. We talked about that before, about it's not single angular attacks, but simple attacks. And you see it being spoken about here in this book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Most of the books all that talk about the attacks in fencing, this basically talk about simple attacks and compound attacks. But if you look at the page on the right, excuse me, it says the principal use of a compound attack that I underlined there.
Hang on, I was trying to pull up another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the top here.
On the right side, it said the principal use of a compound attack,
right,
to overcome a strong defense against simple attacks. Well, the compound attack, Bruce, was basically in fencing. It's combinations, and it's also fakes, feints, and Bruce Lee separated them. So if you look at this sentence in the Dialogue JKD book, Bruce Lee would say the principal use of the progressive indirect attack is to overcome a strong defense. So you could already see where he divided the compound attack from combination. The actual nomenclature of a progressive indirect attack comes from Bruce Lee.
Right.
It's not in the fencing books. He actually made that name up.
Okay. The principal uses of a compound attack are A, to overcome a strong defense against simple attacks and to offer variation in one's pattern of attack.
Right. If you look at the Dialogue JKD book, the old page 196, second paragraph. Right.
It says it right there, man.
Yeah. And that's the old book, not the.
That's the first edition.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see that Bruce Lee says the principal use of the progressive indirect attack is to overcome a strong defense.
All right. Okay.
So that's, so when you see things like that, you see, well, why did he change it? What did he do? It kind of makes you stop to think and say, to try to understand the reasoning why it was changed. So he himself named it the progressive indirect attack. Progressive to gain distance, and indirect to gain time.
To gain time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, okay. I think I named these ones better, so this will be easier for everybody.
Are we still on the fencing books?
We're still on the fence. Hey, man, we got like 3 more to go through. You kidding?
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Fencing with the Ebi. Yeah. Roger Krosner. This book was the book that Bruce Lee saw in Hong Kong when he returned in 1965 with Linda and Brandon. He just landed the role. It wasn't Kato yet. It was a #1 son, and they gave him money. So he had money to go back to Hong Kong. Because I say back to Hong Kong because he was there a few months before because his father passed away.
Right.
In February. And he returned in March. But anyway, this is his brother's book, and he started writing all these notes and underlinings, uh, and thought fencing had a lot to offer his new art that he wanted to develop. Because before he saw these books, he was thinking about using his Wing Chun
Right.
and some of the Gung Fu that he learned, and the boxing that he was researching.
Yeah.
Now he runs into these fencing books, and it opens up a whole new world.
But what
You know,
what would have sparked that idea in his mind to look at fencing and go, oh wait.
I think, honestly, I think is that power of suggestion or the law of attraction. He just happened to be in the right place in the right time and saw these books and picked it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like a chain of events happening to Bruce Lee, like it was meant to be, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he never returned to Hong Kong in '65, he would have never seen these books.
Right.
And who knows if he would have, used fencing into his art.
Yeah.
But because of the situation that he did return and he saw his brother's books, he started reading these books. He saw what using it.
Yeah.
And developing it for his own self.
It's funny. Maybe it's because some of us are just used to the pages of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but all these books look like the Tao.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the pages in all of them look to me like the Tao. All right.
Well, it's the name of this dialogue is what influenced Bruce. What books? Obviously these books were his teachers.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go to a fencing school. He didn't go to a boxing gym. But he just purchased these books and devoured them and and learn from them. Self-learning, as we say.
Right. Yeah.
The hunger to learn, and the hunger to know got him to scout out these books and find them and devour them and learn from them.
Right. Okay. So
I had to go and look for them too.
Right. So this is another one that has probably become very famous, right?
Yes, that's Aldo Nadi's book on fencing.
Yeah.
Aldo Nadi. Yeah, he is. Because Aldo Nadi was a great influence on Bruce Lee as far as the stance was concerned and raising the heel.
Mm-hmm.
The rear heel up.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I wrote a whole article in Instant Kung Fu about the rear heel years ago.
Okay.
And if you look at the bottom, it says raising the left heel ever so little, cock the leg ready to pull the trigger. Yeah.
Well,
that's in the Tao.
That pull the trigger. Oh, yeah, I recognize the pull the trigger words. That's definitely in the Tao, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Right?
You take full advantage of one of the mightiest springs in all creation, the arch of the foot, which in the lunge releases its tremendous power through the pressure exerted on the ground by the ball of the foot itself. Yeah, that's you see all that in the Tao. Yeah, and Bruce is talking about having the rear heel up, ready to pull the trigger, as we call it. Yep. So that was influence from Maldonado.
Yeah.
All
right. The next one is.
Yep.
Now, so he had two. So he had two fencing books at a minimum by this same Costello person, right?
No, this Costello is the father of the other two Costellos of the yellow book that we just saw.
Okay.
Hugo and and James.
I see.
This is the father, Julio Martinez.
A fencing family, huh?
Yeah. So this is the first book that came out by the father, and then the other one came out by the sons.
Okay. Well, sorry that I didn't put stuff in chronological order, guys.
No problem. And here we are. And if you read this, when Bruce talks about distance,
right,
in his notes, he says, no matter how fast you are able to parry, if a man is close enough to you, he will arrive with his point. For the nature of attack is such that to give the advantage to initiative of the attacker. That's all.
That's word for word.
Yeah.
Right.
Likewise, however accurate. So again, when you're talking about distance, there's a science to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's finding it here in these books, and he's taking it.
Yeah.
And he said, this is going to be, this is all interesting because you have to remember that Bruce Lee is thinking outside the box. You know,
especially in the mid to late 60s. Nobody
yeah,
would.
no martial artist will go into fencing and boxing and see what it has to offer to better themselves as martial artists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, usually in those days, what you do is, you know, you learn 5 different Japanese styles. You know, maybe jump into some kung fu and
Right.
and think, you know, learning all these Asian arts is going to make you better.
Yeah.
Whereas here he's going into, you know, Western boxing, Western fencing, and so forth, and he's getting a lot of it because a lot of these, the fencing and the boxing, very scientific.
Yeah.
Which is what Jeet Kune Do is, you know, scientific street fighting, as Bruce Lee called it, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is
a lot of stuff to offer.
this is excellent.
So, you know, so I kind of made a quest to try to find the books in Bruce Lee's library, you know,
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and I did find them, you know. So
now this one I had never seen or heard of this one.
yeah, I put this one again because I know a lot of people have never seen this book or heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
I'm one of those.
this is another fencing book. And I know you've seen this, the Fighter's Visual Field. You've seen that in the Tao, right?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
But I didn't know where it came from.
And you could see, if you look right on top, it says the field of vision is enlarged by distance and diminished at close range.
Right.
Also, it's generally easier to follow the opponent's footwork than his. All that's in Bruce Lee's notes, which eventually became the Tao. And then this one too is the posture. This is in balance inside the Tao.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we always get a phone call?
It's the same person calling you. It was calling me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please call me back in an hour or so. Okay.
Right.
Saying hello. So.
Anyway. Okay. So so we've gone through.
Yeah. That had a lot. That Sword in the Mask. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Good book.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's just to show how Bruce Lee read that book and saw things that were magnificent and included it into his art, you know, and wrote it down in his notes.
Right.
You have to remember that all these were underlinings and marginal notes on Bruce Lee's books. And when he hurt his back that he had to be home for a long time, he gave himself a project to take these books
mm-hmm.
and take his underlinings and actually write them down
mm-hmm.
on paper.
Yeah.
You know, and the diagrams, you know, were all his own. So I think eventually he would have looked at that stuff and made it his own. Right. If he decided to write a book, you know, when he was 80, like he's going to be in a couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks, yeah.
80 years old. You know, he probably would have gone back to his notes and said, okay, let me write all this down now my way. You know, read it and
imagine if he did. I mean, we would have had something like what John Little gave us. Okay, so since you mentioned it, I'm going to go out of order.
That's not bad. Here he is. He hurt his back.
Right.
So what does Bruce Lee do when he hurts his back? He goes and buys a book about the back and how to relieve it. Right. So
let's show this one first.
And so he shows, yeah,
right.
I show this. This is in the book. Some of the exercises in the book and how to basically exercise and relieve the back a little bit. And then the book, and here you see him doing the same exact exercise with John Saxon in Into the Dragon.
That's
stretching and yeah.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. And you notice there's a microphone there. You know, Warner Brothers filmed all this stuff and
did they really?
They video all this backs. All look, put that.
Okay.
Put that. You see, the guy with the microphone there.
Man.
On the right.
Right.
Yeah, they videoed all this. You know, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Of Enter the Dragon.
So somebody in Hong Kong.
Warner Brothers.
Okay. Gee.
Warner Brothers did it, and they did nothing with it. You know, who knows? You know, if they threw it away or if it's still locked in a vault.
Right.
Unmarked, you know.
Yeah. But, I mean, I know in Bay Logan's book they talk about a lot of stuff at Golden Harvest that got misplaced or something, right?
Yeah. because it's film, so it's not like a book that has a title
Mhm.
on the cover. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
you got the film, and
And nobody knows what's on it.
if it's not labeled,
Right.
you know, you got to take the time and put it in a projector and look at it. You know.
Okay. All right. So we get back to martial arts stuff.
Okay, so this is the book that Bruce Lee used in about wrestling. The illustrator got to take down the wrestling. I think Bruce Lee owned he liked wrestling a lot. I think he had like 65 books on wrestling.
Mm.
But I like this because it has the do's and don'ts.
Hmm.
You know, like if you look at the left, it says do's always keep moving, and
Right.
then you look at the dial,
Okay.
and
All
there it
right.
is, the same
Okay.
thing.
So,
So
all
if you
right.
always keep
So if
moving, be
everybody
prepared
see,
for
yeah. Oh, shoot. I forgot. They can't see my cursor, but I'm trying to point out where it
okay.
is. Right. But
Always
then,
keep moving on
yeah.
the left,
And
and then
then,
it's
and then
do's
it's
always
right
keep
there.
moving, be prepared for counter develop. Yeah,
Uh,
okay, like that. So again, it's stuff that he saw in a book that he liked, and
hmm.
he wrote it down, you
Hmm.
know, into his notes when it comes to
Incredible.
grappling. Yeah.
Incredible.
So so he knew, you know, when there was good stuff out there, you know, he was going to use it.
Right.
So
You said
like
he probably had over 60 books on wrestling.
probably 65 books on wrestling. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That
So he understood it, you know, understanding it. But the idea is not to wrestle, but to how to deal with wrestling,
right.
you know, using the art,
Okay.
you know. So you have to observe it and understand it,
All right.
and know how to deal with it. And in case you have to use it yourself for whatever reason, you have to
Yeah.
know some of it.
Okay. So now let's show everybody this one first, and then okay, yeah, this one. So tell everybody what this is.
This is advertisements from Black Belt Magazine, and Black Belt Magazine was selling a lot of books of martial arts, Japanese books. And this was in the 60s in Black Belt Magazine, which Bruce Lee was an avid reader of. So I think this was a good. They basically advertised books and told you, you know, build up your library of martial arts.
Mhm.
So it kind of like you can be sure that Bruce Lee probably purchased every single book
Right.
that was advertised in
Yeah.
Black Belt Magazine and added it to his library.
Okay.
So these are just Japanese books, one after the other. You know, here's a book on judo, another book on the Kodokan judo, a lot of Japanese books, yeah. Aikido, another another book on Aikido, yeah. So you know, he had all these books uh, on Japanese martial arts because you know you see them advertised in Black Belt Magazine, and you know a lot of regular bookstores wouldn't carry these books at the time.
Mhm.
You know, they were specialized books, but you could actually purchase them from uh, from Black Belt. So,
Yeah. It
so
it's probably because I was looking at an old issue, but
mhm,
this ad looks to me
mhm.
like it could be a current ad in Black Belt, but the layout looks to be like
Yeah,
it could be
and it says be a nobody, you know, no, which was Bruce Lee, you know.
right. Yeah.
I'm sure he must have been overjoyed when he received those books in the mail, you know,
Hmm.
because a lot of these Japanese books were high quality books, hardbound. They came in these beautiful brown um, boxes,
Yeah.
you know, so they were very high quality books. I think Bruce Lee always wanted to write a Jeet Kune Do book that same type of quality
Right.
that these Japanese books came in.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at O'Hara books, they didn't have that type of quality. They were always like paperbacks and were like $5 books and so forth.
Hmm. Yeah.
Which made,
So if he had put out the Dow, he would have put it out in hardcover the way there was the limited edition, huh?
well, it the Tao Jeet Kune Do book is the first hardcover book that O'Hara Publications actually published.
Right.
Before that, all their books were little $5 paperback books. You know, I think that was one of the
Interesting.
reasons why Bruce Lee decided not to write his book. You know,
Yeah.
and give away all that information for $5 when he's getting what is it, $250, $275 an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's do this. You know, when I retire from martial arts, I'm going to go get myself a job at a TV station so I can work in the controls and put stuff up. Like, and they'll go, "How'd you get so good?" I'm like, "Talking to Richard Torres. That's how I did it."
Practicing.
That's how I did
Practice
it.
makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
Tell me you bought a book on it and you read on it.
All right. So talking about books and reading on it. All right. You got to tell them
There
about
it is.
This is truly
A book
awesome.
of dance. Yeah. So here's a book that Bruce Lee has on dance. Okay. And then here, if you look at it, this is one of the chapters on dance. He's talking about, the creative art expression. It says technique and expression. And if you look, mind and expression is showing contemporary education regards the individual as growing, changing organism whose mind becomes increasingly his most distinctive and dominating characteristic. But if you look on the second page there on the right, it said the reactions of one mind will be different from those of a mind that has differently organized impressions. Experiences that have not been sufficiently perceived will contribute little or nothing towards expression. So here, this, if you think about dancing, right?
Right.
You actually, it's one of those things that you have the mechanical stage and the spontaneous stage, which means that when you're learning the dance, you become mechanical and you don't move smoothly because you're thinking about the moves.
Right.
And then you have to let that knowledge go so that the body can just express and flow naturally.
Yeah. I mean,
or then you'll look rigid.
Yeah. As you're reading that, you know, as a martial artist, you're like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then you go, no, but it's from a dance book.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Okay.
And then here you
now
see
this
Bruce
is
Lee
hilarious.
and Into the Dragon.
Right? This is hilarious. Okay.
I guess it was his day off that day. So what does he do? He brings the book, the dance book. Oh, we lost it.
Huh?
We lost the book. We lost the picture.
Wait.
There it is. There
okay.
It is.
Right. Yeah. No.
So you can see he has the same exact dance book on his hands.
Right. Yeah. Did you did it not go to the close up?
We have. Yeah, we have. There it is. That's the big one.
Oh, okay.
The close up. There it is.
Right.
You can see it's the same exact dance book that I just showed.
Yeah.
Which I have in my library too. It's a good book. Very good book. And actually, Bruce Lee took notes from it.
Yeah.
And it's in his notes, handwritten notes. A lot of stuff from that book.
That's funny.
About going with the flow. You see like Dancing with the Stars, how some people, they get all these supposedly non-dancers,
right.
who are famous people and teach them a dance and so forth. And some of them can nail it and others look so mechanical because they're still thinking about the move. So you can understand how Bruce Lee would buy a book on dance, and the book on dance would talk about how the mind has to go from the mechanical to the spontaneous.
Right. So
eventually anything you learn, even in the art of Jeet Kune Do, at the beginning you first become mechanical because you're thinking about, where my rear hand is, where my lead hand is, and so. But eventually, you just bring up your guards and everything is there by itself, spontaneous. So you need to get to that spontaneous stage, which eventually, it's a combination of the primitive stage, which is the first stage, and the mechanical stage, which is the second stage, and the spontaneous stage, a combination of both.
All right. Okay. Well, Richard, that is a very good segue into the areas that we're going to go into now.
Now, this is all about philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bruce Lee started, book hunting, as we could say, when he got to California, LA, and he purchased this book in 1966, actually November of 66. I know that.
Yeah, only you would know that.
And it really opened up his mind about self-knowledge and learning and so forth, because Krishnamurti really put it eloquently, things on that you about learning, about education. That he said you never stop learning as a human being.
Right.
So
now this is a ton of underlining and notes.
and it's straight the same exact underlinings in Bruce's books,
Mm-hmm.
and the same, and those are Bruce Lee's notes in the top and the bottom. So freedom lies in
Understanding yourself. Yeah.
From moment to moment.
Yeah.
So you see where it says the function of education then is to help you from childhood not to imitate anybody, but to be yourself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Always to be what you are, but understand. If you look at what you actually are and understand it, then in that very
understanding there's a transformation. But in understanding what you are from moment to moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Your education encourages you to become something or other.
Yeah.
But that is part of the understanding of yourself. So these are things that Bruce Lee underlined in Krishnamurti's book. I mean, he did a lot of underlinings in that book.
And this is where the ideas of Jeet Kune Do not being a system come from, correct?
Yeah, this is expressing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, Krishnamurti is talking about, you know, culture versus humanity. We know that if you're a culture, you're a product of your environment, whereas you're a human being, you're a product of the world. You know, so obviously Bruce Lee used some of that for his martial art.
Yeah.
You know, in understanding, you know, you're not a Japanese style, you're not a Chinese style.
Right.
You're a martial artist. You know.
Yeah. So it's like when Pierre Berton asked him about what kind of martial artist he sees himself as, and he says something like he sees himself as a human being, right?
Well, he asked him, do you want to be known as a Chinese or an American? You know,
right?
So he said as a human being, you know,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
So
and this is Alan Watts, another person that Bruce Lee delved into a lot. Actually, Bruce Lee got introduced to Alan Watts when he was in the University of Washington.
Okay.
Learning philosophy. The reason I have these pages is because Bruce Lee wrote a thesis in the University of Washington about himself training with Yip Man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard about it or read it. That he says on the thesis that he couldn't understand what he had to do, and Yip Man told him to take some time off.
Right.
And he rented a boat and went on a lake. And,
yeah.
You know, supposedly, you know, this is this 14-year-old kid doing this. You know, so you know, it really didn't happen, but it looked good on paper for his teacher. But it came from Alan Watts.
I see.
Excuse me. Yeah, and he said, you see, need to be said that the demand for effort and must is inconsistent with the demand for effortless and relaxed. That's straight from his thesis that he wrote for his teacher in philosophy class.
Wow.
And you know, that was used later on, saying, look how smart Bruce Lee was as a child. You know, he went into the lake and but to control it, by swinging it, you know.
Yeah.
Of not exerting oneself. But if you look at it, it's basically what Wing Chun is, you know, but to control yourself swing, of not exerting oneself up against nature, of not being in frontal opposition of the direction of things.
Yeah. No, you know, that it's funny that you mentioned that, because on Wednesday in the broadcast, I was talking about something similar, that even if a story isn't true, its value can still be in imparting some kind of wisdom to you, some kind of idea.
You know? Because if you think, you know, he read this book and then related it to his Wing Chun lesson.
Right.
You know, he's writing that, you know, I was training with Yip Man and I couldn't get it, and Yip Man told me to take some time off. And I went down and, you know, to the lake and got on a boat. I think there's another page at the end where he says he saw a bird flying over. Is there there's a third page to this one? See, you see it.
Okay, wait. I took that one down. Hang on.
Okay. And Bruce, that's how he ends it. You know, he ends it. So I hit water, and water is inconsistent. You know, that whole. It's a beautiful thesis if you read it.
Let me
It's
see.
in. It's in.
No, I
One
don't
of the
think
John
I don't
Woods.
think I have. I don't know. That's not. I don't say anything about a bird.
Artist of Life. Let's see. I got it here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that one I don't have.
Let's see
I
if it
don't
comes up.
think.
There it is. So he says, not extending yourself against nature, of not being in front of them. Okay, we read that one.
Right.
And then, oh, it's the last one. Okay, this is what Zen means by being detached, not being without emotion or feeling, not being one in whom feeling is not sticking or blocked.
Oh no, I
Not
didn't get
losing
that
the
one.
experience.
Hey, you robbed me.
Yeah.
I didn't get that one.
I think I sent it to you.
Okay. I
Yeah.
probably missed that one in going through
Yeah.
everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fix it.
But anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Let me just get them out of here.
Right.
But it's great stuff, you know, and if you look at it, it does relate to what he was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so it's amazing.
All right. I think I just messed up on something there. Okay. All right. Let me get this one back. So the next one is another famous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That one.
Walk On.
Everybody knows this one.
Bruce Lee writes Walk On. He actually wrote that when he hurt his back. He wrote that on a card and basically put it on top of his desk. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Walk on. Always go forward. See.
Yeah.
But it's a book that he had in his library by Christmas Humphreys.
That's a heck of a name. Christmas
Yeah, imagine
Humphrey.
your name is Christmas. Yeah.
But it's
What's your name? Christmas.
right, but it's published by the Buddhist Society of London. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he named his son Noel. Okay. that was a joke. But it's
That's a good one. I just got it.
Yeah.
I was a little bit slow on that one.
So you see, it says walk on.
Yeah.
It says, ask what is truth?
Right.
Master of Zen Buddhism replied, walk on. It says, we are manifestations of the principles of life. Look at what it says here. This is so beautiful. It says, in its graceful rhythm of thrusting bud to leaf, and flower, later to fall to the fruitful earth, and thereby provide the food for the buds of a later spring. Which means, you know, the leaves fall from the trees, falls on the ground, and then those leaves become soil and nourish the tree itself, so for other leaves to come up, you know.
Yeah.
So it's that recycling kind of idea, you know.
But see, now in that reading, right, I hear the process of a martial art instructor as well.
Yes, because when you're teaching, you're also relearning,
you
know, and that helps.
Right. Yeah. And as you go through that process, you end up providing the food for the buds of a later spring. So later on, when you're gone, you know, your lineage continues. So I think that's an expression of Bruce Lee's lineage as well, right?
Correct. So like you would see, you know, Bruce Lee, Ted Wong, and train me, you know, and so forth. And I have my students.
Yeah.
So it continues. The lineage continues from there.
Yeah, like Vincent Benitez, who's like, oh man, Dwight's doing a better job than I did when we did the history of Jeet Kune Do. I'm kidding, Vincent. I'm kidding. You did an awesome job with that, man.
He did.
Yeah.
It's actually it's on YouTube too. So.
Oh yeah, you guys put it up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's some here's some other now well-known stuff, but I don't think when people first saw it, they were aware of where it came from. So everybody knows this.
My definite chief aim. Yeah. Yep. And this is Bruce Lee writing his goal, but you know, not just saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He actually wrote it so that he could see it. You know, and then what you do is you make a goal, then you break it into pieces, and to the point where, you know, what do you do today for that, to reach that goal? And that comes from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And if you look at Napoleon's Hill, inside that book, you can see where Bruce Lee took it word for word almost.
Right.
And Napoleon Hill, actually, again, being the teacher and Bruce Lee the student, he says, your written statement of your purpose should be similar to the following. By the first day of January 19th, I will have in my possession $50,000, which will come to me in various amounts from time to time during the interim. In return for this money, I will give the most efficient service of which I am capable, rendering the fullest possible quantity and the best possible quality of service in the capacity of.
Right.
And that would have been,
yeah,
as a martial artist. So then if you look at Bruce Lee, when he wrote it, he says, I, Bruce Lee, will be the first highest paid Oriental superstar in the United States. In return, I will give the most exciting performances and render the best of quality in the capacity of an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Starting 1970, I will achieve world fame, which definitely happened. And then onward till the end of 1980, I will have in my possession $10 million.
Right.
I will live the way I please and achieve inner harmony and happiness.
Hey, since we were talking about stories, you want to hear a story about Think and Grow Rich that I don't know if it's true or not?
He was talking to me. Think and grow, Rich.
Another good one. Right. Apparently the original title was How to Use Your Noodle to Make a Boodle. I swear to you, I heard that I don't know if it's true or not, but that was the working title. And then they were like, no, that's not gonna sell. That's not gonna sell anything. And there, I mean, there's go ahead.
It's a good book, a Think and Grow Rich book. It's shows you how to reach your goals and so forth.
Yeah. Now this is another one. I thought this one was this was pretty cool. And all right, let me get rid of this and put this one up. And again, another object, I guess we could say, which is synonymous with Bruce Lee, right? Give it one sec.
All these self-help books, really.
Yeah. So we'll show him this first.
Who's that guy?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you could see the tombstone, and it says, in memory of a once fluid man, crammed and distorted by the classical mess.
Right.
And then you see over here from the. Did you put the book?
No. Okay. So there's the cover of the book, right?
Profitable Showmanship. Profitable Showmanship, and this is a book that Bruce Lee bought in a bookstore, and you know who he was going to try to sell, right? It's funny because Leo Fong once visited Bruce in LA, and he said, "Why do you have so many books on salesmanship, on real estate, and so forth?" And Bruce Lee said, "Because I'm the real estate that I'm selling."
Yeah. Okay.
So Bruce Lee is learning how to basically sell himself, sell his art.
Yeah. See, so this is, I mean, we'll get back to it in a second, but this is one of the reasons why I argue with people who have a less than adequate approach to and I'll use the word that they think is pejorative, a less than adequate approach to the selling of Jeet Kune Do. Bruce Lee gave us examples of how to be proud of your talent and your skill, and to not hide it under a cloud. Do what's necessary. And I find now this one, before you sent me this, I did not know where it came from. And I think
and there it is.
It's absolutely incredible, right? It's absolutely incredible that he took the idea from this oil company.
Yeah, it says the Harris Super Service Company in Van Nuys, California has a tombstone on the lawn in front of the station. The epitaph reads, "In memory of a good motor ruined by inferior oil and gas. So Bruce Lee said, wow,
Listen, that
this is mine again going.
exactly. That is the epitome. That is the
Yeah,
epitome of thinking outside the box.
outside the box,
Right?
correct.
Who sees look,
A tombstone.
the top marketers in the world, and people have heard me talk about this before, the top marketers in the world say, look at what somebody is doing in their industry and see how you can apply it to your
In
own.
yours. Yes.
And he takes
Absolutely.
an idea from an oil service company.
Yeah. When he sees in memory of a good motor, he puts in memory of a once fluid man.
And that's
which was the
funny.
primitive stage.
That's funny because they're talking about oil and he says fluid man.
And then crammed and distorted by the classical mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was such a great tombstone. And I was so glad that George Lee made one for me. You know, that's the one you see me holding there. He made a duplicate for me. Mm-hmm. Along with the signs, the 4 signs, you know, cultivation signs that Bruce Lee had in his school.
Nice.
But, you know, so I have that now in my museum there. And it's something that I really cherish now because obviously George Lee's not with us anymore.
Right, yeah.
So it's a great item.
Okay.
But yeah, Bruce Lee got it from a book,
yeah.
You know?
That's
think about it, you know. There he goes
incredible.
Again, thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
You know, how can I use this information for me?
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're down to the last.
I think we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
you know, obviously, you know, Bruce Lee had close to 2,500 books in his library. And we just picked a few from that. You know. Okay. The Passionate State of Mind. Okay. Here we have another philosophy book by Eric Hoffer.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually have a copy of Bruce Lee's notes when he wrote this. And in the top of the page, he actually writes the Passionate State of Mind.
Oh, really?
For some reason, they put it in the Tao Jeet Kune Do book.
Okay.
And it put it's just a name.
Yeah.
You know. And and you can see it, you know, Bruce Lee picked up things from that book and wrote it down on some paper, and it was put in the Tao.
Right.
And it's just a name. You know, there's a powerful craving in most of us to see ourselves as instruments in the hands of others, and thus free ourselves from the responsibility for acts which are prompted by our own questionable inclinations and impulses. You see things like this, and you can understand why Bruce Lee became Bruce Lee. You know,
right? Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
anybody else feels. Go ahead.
Sorry. It's just
anybody else feels comfortable in a 9-to-5 job, you know, and just get paid for it, whereas Bruce Lee had to rely on Bruce Lee to bring an income with his on his own, you know,
right?
With creating his own whatever, just to bring some money in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I think that a lot of times the mind of Bruce Lee is not emphasized in our pursuits. You know, we're so caught up in his physical achievements, and we try to copy that and what have you. And a lot of people don't seem to catch on that his mind is what drove his body.
Yeah, that's right. That was the vehicle.
You know,
the body was the vehicle, and the mind was what was driving it. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that way too often, it's like people don't want to. So, for example, they don't want to do. Let me see if I can find it, because I just moved some files around and I may have messed up something. Okay, all right, but I think I can get it back. Yeah. Okay. Right.
One of the things that stood out for me in this Eric Hoffer stuff, in the Passionate State of Mind, that where he writes, the most poignant sense of insecurity comes from standing alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not alone when we imitate,
Mm-hmm.
And you say to yourself, wow, that's so true. People just accept things for what they are. And, and if you discover something and you're like the only person that discovered it and everybody else is going this way while you're going that way, you're standing alone, and you have to kind of be brave enough to sometimes say,
you want to hear something funny?
People made a mistake. Yeah.
So The Passionate State of Mind, a new and exciting book by the author of The True Believer. That book, The True Believer, that book was recommended to me by my marketing teacher. He says it's a good book to study if you want to start a cult.
I have that book in my library.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah,
it's a good book.
Right? He says it's a good, right? I mean, but what he's really saying is that it's a good book if you want to understand what drives people.
And it's funny because Eric Hoffer himself really wasn't a philosopher. He was a union leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But man, his mind was like way out there.
Right. I mean,
and he could understand things that a normal person wouldn't understand. I mean, it's nice that it was put in the Tao because at least it allows everyone to read this stuff and really get a lot out of it. I mean, for those who do read the Tao,
Yeah. Okay. So now talking about normal people. So here's a not so normal person. Right.
Yeah. Bruce Lee with his gigantic library.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's another not so normal person.
Yeah, that's me in my library. That's my library. From floor to ceiling.
Right. Yeah. That's
and on the right is the magazines. Every magazine that came out on Bruce.
That's not normal.
And the left is Jeet Kune Do. Yeah, well, what you're looking at is those are my teachers right there.
Right.
And I can always go back to them whenever I need them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really good stuff.
That's
fun to have.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. I just realized I think we have one last set, one absolute last set.
One last set.
Right? Okay. All right. So let's put those up. These I knew that he had collected stuff in this field, but the books that I have seen on this are not the same as what you sent me. But I saw a couple. There's only one of which you sent me, not that one. This one, the film experience. That's the only one that I knew of.
Yeah. So here's Bruce Lee trying to learn on how to direct. Everything about film, because obviously he's going to break into film and. Well, he knew what direction he was going into. So So what does he do? Does he take a class in directing and filming? No. He goes and he purchases a book on the subject, and there they are.
Yeah.
So and he starts again devouring the books, reading on them, and learns how to. So it's funny, if you look at the Way of the Dragon, which he directed himself. I remember reading an article by some person that did go to film school, and he was describing what Bruce Lee was doing in the movie. This is called this. When Bruce, who is core? And then they jump into the person's face. And this is in film school they call this.
Oh yeah.
So Bruce Lee knew his stuff. I mean, we just enjoy the movie and that's it. But we don't know the procedures that it takes to the angles of the cameras and so forth.
Yeah.
But when he was getting into that, obviously he decided he was going to read up on it again and self-learn on the subject.
Well, yeah.
Which again, it's something that you have to give him credit for.
Well, because I think he learned very early on that owning the material. So rather than being an actor who gets paid a salary, right? Get paid more than once, which is another marketing principle. So, so director, star,
producer,
right? produced,
Produce?
right?
Did you get a percentage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, so that you get paid 3 or 4 times for one set of work.
For the project, yeah.
Yeah, right. And since you own the vehicle, it's yours forever. An actor gets paid his salary, his or her salary for doing the movie, and that's it. Bruce Lee would have been getting stuff on the back end.
Yeah, every time they sold a VHS, DVD,
Right.
and now it's virtual, whatever, it goes on Amazon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wherever he would definitely still be getting money on it.
Yep. So, you know, it's like I used to tell people back in the old days that you think about any aspect of human endeavor, any sphere of human activity, and I could probably find a way to make it relate to Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do. You know, right? And
yeah, he was a human being that went beyond what was expected of him. You know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think about, as soon as he got off the boat in San Francisco, his godfather, he was living with over there in San Francisco for a very small amount of time, got him a job as a waiter in a Chinese restaurant. You know, how more culturally, social,
Right.
that he had, oh, you're Chinese.
Oh yeah, yeah,
get you a job
that's
as a waiter
that's the typical job, right?
Which he didn't last too long because Bruce Lee's character didn't.
Well, because it's like
he quit very quickly.
It's like you said, right? When you were talking about him going back to Hong Kong and coming across the fencing book, it was meant to be. Bruce Lee was never meant to be a busboy at Ruby Chow's.
No.
You know what I mean? Now, a different
washing dishes and mopping the floor.
Yeah, a different type of individual would have done what? Would have accepted that is the customary role for for a teenager fresh off the boat from Hong Kong. Restaurant work. A lesser individual would have accepted that. And had he done that, had that been his destiny, you and I would not be having this conversation.
He might have been promoted to a master waiter or something.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then maybe he would have thought, okay, well, if I get some cooking skills, maybe I can make some more money by being the head cook at some point,
Well, look at Fook Young. He was the cook in Ruby Chow's. He had all this Kung Fu knowledge.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, you look at Bruce Lee and he actually, one of his diaries, he says, I'm not gonna end up like these guys,
Right.
He actually writes that. One of his diaries. I have it, a copy of it.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not gonna end up, but he already had a product when he got off that boat, and the product was dance. And he was teaching dancing. He was teaching dancing actually in the ship that he was in from Hong Kong to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And when he got to San Francisco, he was teaching dance and making money teaching dance.
Hey.
So I think he thought he could make some good bucks.
Right.
Teaching.
Let me ask you, because what of everything? This is a hard question to answer, but of everything that you've read about Bruce Lee, or well, not about, from Bruce Lee, as in what Bruce Lee has written. Do you have a single most inspiring letter, note, entry in diary, or anything?
Yeah, probably early on in the 1960s, when he decided he was going to start teaching Gung Fu and market it. He wrote a letter to Pearl Sai.
Oh man, I was gonna tell you that's mine.
Oh,
that's mine. When he writes about what
he understands already at that age about marketing.
Yes.
And here I have a product that I can market and sell, and being one of the few people that has this product
Right.
in America.
Yeah.
Because at that time it was few people understand that Wing Chun was also relatively new. A lot of Chinese people, even in San Francisco, didn't know what it was.
Right. Yeah. Not relatively new, absolutely new, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
They never saw Wing Chun in their whole life.
Yeah.
Escaping communist China and moving into Hong Kong, and Bruce Lee just happened to train with him, had this product that was something new that wasn't around in the United States of America. And now here Bruce Lee is writing this letter saying, yeah, I have this product that I think I can market and sell.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a.
Do you have?
It's funny you had the same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Same
As a matter of fact, so it's. Let's see.
Are you looking for the letter?
Yeah.
I have it back here somewhere.
No, I got it. It's where.
This is all of Bruce Lee's letters and notes.
That's the secret stuff. Right.
So the letter's here. Volume 1. Yeah.
So he says this letter is hard to understand. It contains my dreams and my ways of thinking.
There it
right.
is. Yep.
There are 2 ways of making a good living. One is the result of hard working, and the other the result of the imagination. Requires work too, of course, but it is the part where he talks about whether it is the Godhead or not. I feel this great force, this untapped power, this dynamic something within me. This feeling defies description. That's the part.
We call it the law of attraction, the power of suggestion.
Yeah. Well, that's back in Think and Grow Rich. The definite chief aim comes from the chapter or the section on auto-suggestion.
Correct.
Right?
And the new book that came out was called The Secret. It came out a few years ago.
Oh, yeah,
almost the same.
Yeah.
Almost the same thing,
Yeah.
The idea of, but I mean, if you look at Bruce Lee's life, it's all a chain of events, all linked together. From being in Seattle,
right?
Jesse Glover asking him to teach.
Yeah. But see, one of the problems that I have come across with people don't understand the work element that is necessary in the law of attraction. They think that you could just be lazy and think about stuff and you'll attract all this stuff into your life. They don't understand that you got to be out there working hard and
that's right.
And creating the attractiveness, creating that force field that attracts that good stuff to you.
Yes, because if you think it's just going to knock on your door,
right,
and you're just going to open it and it's there, it's not going to happen. My library just didn't fall from the sky. I had to go out and dig for every single book that interests me.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always, in fact, I was interviewed last Friday for a radio station in New York, and the guy asked me an interesting question. He says, "Can you tell me something from the past, that started it all for you? That these," and I was trying to think, and I remember going to see Way of the Dragon.
Yeah.
14 years old, 15, I forgot, but and the lady tells me when I'm buying the ticket, there's only standing room only. There's no seats.
Really?
I said, I don't care. I got to see this movie. Yeah. The War Theater in New York City in the Bronx. So I pay, and I go in, and sure enough, place is jammed. Remember in those days, it was one movie theater. You could fit 500 people in there. So I saw a vending machine there. They sell canned sodas, and I said, oh, I jumped on the vending machine and I sat on top of the vending machine. And the balcony was there, so I had to kind of look down like this to see the whole screen of the movie,
Right.
And that's how I saw for the first time, Return of the Dragon, which it's Way of the Dragon.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm watching it. I saw the whole movie, and after the movie finished, and you see, I'm still sitting on top of the vending machine. I'm seeing hundreds and hundreds of people leaving. I'm saying to myself, man, I really, really want to do this. I want to learn Bruce Lee's art. I want to basically be able to go that direction, and do what I can, in regards to that. And that was way back then. And then here you go, 2020, and I've met Bruce Lee's wife, Bruce Lee's son, Bruce Lee's daughter. I was able to train in the art, have my own school, which has been open for 26 years now.
Wow.
So it's kind of if you look at it, it doesn't come to you. You have to
you
consistently be doing it.
You don't sit back.
It happens. It happens.
You don't sit back and have it, like you said, knock on the door or fall in your lap. You have to have the idea, but it goes right back to Bruce Lee's definite chief aim. Here's what I want to happen. Here's what I'm prepared to do in order to have it happen. Because that's the directed. When you're taught how to write out your own definite chief aim, you do have to state what you want, but then you have to state what it is that you're going to do in order to get what you want.
Sometimes the ship doesn't come in. You have to go and swim towards it. Things happen. A lot of chain of events.
Right. A lot of people don't get that aspect of it.
If you didn't do this wouldn't have happened. If you didn't do that, that wouldn't have happened, and so forth. And you realize, you start looking back and you say to yourself, wow, it's true. If I didn't do this wouldn't happen.
Right.
But because I did this, that happened, and so forth. And you continue growing,
Yeah. Yeah. All right, my friend. I think that's everything.
So the last comment I want to make is, here we have Bruce Lee's library, which allowed us to see, the direction where Bruce Lee was self-learning all these things for himself. Unlike today, that if we want to learn something, we'll go to the computer, Google it or watch it on YouTube and learn from there. But at that time, Bruce Lee didn't have the idea. So what did he do? He had books, and it was the books that basically allowed him to grow and self-learn any subject he was hungry to learn. And that's the secret there. You have to have the hunger, and if you have the hunger, you'll absorb and learn as much as you want.
And the thing is,
you can't just be half-assed about it.
Right. And so much stuff is like, somebody will spend time with us here. They'll hear us talk about Think and Grow Rich. They will they'll know how important it was in Bruce Lee's life or whatever. And they'll never go on the internet and download a PDF of the book for free. You know what I mean?
Or read the book.
Right. But what you're saying about Google and what have you is the fact that, like you and I know that Think and Grow Rich was written in the 1930s, so it falls into public domain. That's why there's so many versions of it online, but that's why it's also available online for free. So it's not, so people would spend less money than Bruce Lee spent 60 years ago.
Correct.
Right?
You don't have to build a library like this crazy guy here.
Right. You don't have to spend that kind. You could build a library, just print out the PDF, right? Or if, heaven forbid that they do that, but at least have some files on your computer.
And it's funny because there are a lot of Dialogue JKD books full of dust on people's shelves. What do they say? The used tool never knows the spider's web,
Yep.
And people that oh yeah, I have the Tao. Have you read it?
Right.
Well, I looked through it.
Yeah.
And I shelved it. And that's the difference.
Hey man, that's one approach.
Just having it, just reading it, or devouring it.
Right. Yeah.
three different things.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time, right? You can't really expect anything of anybody. You can only expect of yourself. So people would tell me, oh, this and this and this. I go, well, yeah, that's one approach, right? It's not my approach, but that right. But if that's what works for you, more power to you. Right.
Yeah.
All right, man. This was
okay.
fun.
I hope everyone enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think they did.
It took a lot of time to get all this done.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
You really sent me some good stuff. Right.
Well,
Okay.
I'm
All
glad
right.
you enjoyed it.
So
Hopefully everyone
yeah.
enjoyed it
So
too.
when we finish up, if you would go through the comments and see if there's anything that somebody put in there that that you need to answer or what have you, and I'll do the same thing.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, man.
Okay.
All right. You take care.
You take
All
care.
right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, that was episode number 153 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. Feel free to share, like, comment, ask questions if you want. Richard and I will take a look at everything and answer anything that's necessary. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods, at ilovejeetkundo.com. The Quick Skill Series Volume 1 is still available. Coming up next Friday, significant day, November 27th, we'll be on with Mark Stewart of Boxer Rebellion. And that should be at the regular time, 6 p.m. I'm pretty sure, maybe even 5 p.m. But that's next Friday, November 27th. And yeah, that's going to be another good one. Mark is going to go deep, as we say. Right. So I'll see some of you next Friday. Hopefully I'll see some of you on Wednesday during the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. But until then, this is Dwight Woods, the JKD Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope things are not crazy your part of town. All right. And I'll see you next time. All right. Take care. Speak soon.
But I have to tell you, right off the bat, I do not like you very much. And here's why, right?
Sorry.
No, here's why. If I took my life savings and I started now trying to duplicate all the stuff that you own, I wouldn't live long enough. You have an amazing, amazing collection. I have never seen anything like it. And
Hello, everyone. I want to talk about the influences that Bruce Lee's three main students that were actually participating in tournaments, how they influenced Bruce Lee a bit. And you had Joe Louis, Chuck Norris, and Mike Stone were the three that Bruce Lee was training, and at the time they were all champions in the tournament circuit. So Joe Louis influenced Bruce because Joe Louis had this guard here, and you can see this a lot in Bruce Lee's movies where he has this guard a lot and he uses it in his movie. We know Jeet Kune Do is here, but for the movies, Bruce Lee liked to put his hand down sometimes like this, and you can see that when he had that stance there. Chuck Norris used to do a lot of spinning kicks. So he influenced Bruce because Chuck used to do the spinning back kick there, and that was a big influence on Bruce, and he too started doing spinning kicks. All right, and then Mike Stone had a nice combination that he used to do at tournaments, which was a rising front kick and a hook kick, where he would go here and then he'd pick up there. Okay, and that influenced Bruce also because you could see it in Wayne the Dragon, a couple of movies that he would use it, and he'd just go here and he kick. Okay, so he kicked here and then here, and what you see here is basically this can be used when you motor set the opponent to being kicked in the groin here, okay? And he thinks here you are, and then suddenly you come here and up there, okay? So the kick itself will go here, here. So you're going for groin and a hook kick at the same time. So basically, it's a low-high kick, all right? And again, another influence from Mike Stone. The kick itself is very good. Okay, people say, oh, in Jeet Kune Do you don't kick high. And we kick from the body down, but once in a while you can surprise an opponent with a high kick. Okay, I love when people believe we don't kick high, because they say, yeah, we only kick low, we kick down here. Yeah, we only kick down here, and bam, there he goes. Okay, so try it and see if it works for you. All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. What we're going to talk about today is the use of the focus gloves. I see too many times people using the focus gloves incorrectly, and the person holding the gloves, they're not holding them correctly. And basically, we're going to show you how it should be done. Sifu Ted Won used to always be a stickler on how to hold the gloves. And to this day, I still see people, even some instructors, holding it incorrectly. So first thing, understand that when you're holding the gloves, you're not fighting a two-headed monster, which means you shouldn't be holding the gloves like this. Okay? If Jesse, come over here, right? If Jesse's gonna do, let's say, a lead straight and a rear cross, all right? I don't want to give him these two targets. This is wrong, because believe it or not, he's still chasing the glove. This one here. Okay? We have one head. One head means one target. So if he was doing this, we would be going here, okay? Or better yet, so that the shoulder doesn't get beat up, we turn and we do it this way. Okay? Right here. So one target, one hit. Now, if you notice, when I'm holding this focus glove, it's going this way here, so it's not beating up my shoulder. Okay? We don't want to hold the glove this way like this, where every time he punches, okay, my shoulder's getting an impact. Okay? All right? So you can hurt yourself. Holding it this way, your wrist can get hurt too. All right? So you notice that when I did this here at the beginning, then I moved here and showed you that it's a lot better holding it here. Okay? Now, so you don't want to hold it here, and you always want to hold it on center line. All right? If we were doing a hook, we don't want the hook to be here so that he has to chase it. Okay? We want it right on our center line so that he can go and do a hook and follow through with it, right? He'll go right through it. He will go right through it, see? Right there, see? And he's followed through, right? We don't want it over here where he has to chase it. Worst of all, I've seen where guys hold the glove like this for two hooks. So do a hook with this one, and the poor guy has to go chasing focus gloves, you know, doing this. Okay? Again, that's wrong. If he was doing two hooks, we'd have one glove here, the other glove right here. So I'd be holding it here for him, and I'd feed him here, right there, see? Right here. Again, being on center line, so he can go through the target instead of chasing the target. And of course, obviously, you don't want him to be chasing the two-headed monster again, okay? So every time you think about the target always being right here on center line, whether the target is here, whether the target is here, whether the target is here. So if I did all three, all right, and you notice how I hold the gloves, I'm here, boom, okay? I'm right here, I'm right here. Okay, we did it for an uppercut to be right here, okay? Again, you don't want him chasing the focus gloves. So everything stays within the body, all right? If we were doing for kicking, all right, we double up on the kicking, and let's say a hook kick. I don't want to put the glove over here where he has to chase it. I want to put it on center line where when he kicks right through, right here. Okay? And again, he's going through the target. If he was going to kick with the rear, we put it right here. Okay? Exactly. One time, and he kicks through. All right? What you don't want to do, the wrong way, is to go here, okay, and then here. All right? Again, we don't want him chasing. Right? We want him kicking through the target. Right? So if I would feed him, I'm just going to feed you a few. We're going to do this improvise, nothing memorized here. And I'm just giving him targets, and he's just going right here. See? Everything is inside. Okay? Okay? Even here for side kick, hook kick, hook kick. Okay? Straight in. Right here. Right here. Right here. Boom. Right here. Right in there. Good. So everything is close to the reality of the opponent. Right in there. Okay? So try that. Work with it. All right? If you use it, give me the credit. No, just make sure that you use it correctly. All right? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
I got one more thing to put in here. Whoops, I just lost my screen. Are we live? We're probably live, right?
I see you perfectly. Of course, you lost the screen when you go live.
Oh, man. Okay.
That's all right. We still got another minute.
Okay. All right. There we go. I got that. And this.